Hi, welcome to the War Bunker. Hi Wargamers, and welcome back to the War Room. It's just me at the minute, and I'm just going to talk to you a little bit about something we're doing ahead of our... we just set up the room to do a painting challenge. And I thought this was an ideal opportunity to really just talk a little bit about the basics of painting and the kind of thing that you're going to need when you're assembling your models. A lot of what we've looked at so far is about tactics and things, and really when you're doing painting, it's a good idea to just review what do you really need. As per usual, we've got a little bit more than you need, but let's start off with, obviously, what tends to happen is you get things in kit form on a sprue. Usually they're unpainted. These were supplied unpainted. This is a kind of a trick that I do that my son Cameron doesn't share. When you get some models, let's take this guy for example. There's him. If you assemble him first, what you usually find, and capes are one of the things that really drive me absolutely mad, is once he's assembled, yeah, you think, oh yeah, I'm done really well. But when you have to start painting into all those nooks and crannies, you realise that you really wished that you painted it beforehand. So what I often do with models is paint them ahead of time. Try and paint some of the basics on, so they're pretty much ready. Now this is kind of frustrating because in a way it feels like you're not really doing much. You're not really making it, because it doesn't, you know, these are no more assembled than when you got them out the box. You know, there's no kind of sensation of, oh, I'm doing, you know, I'm getting done. But once you start gluing them together, they come together really quickly. What tends to happen a little bit, these are plastic ones, and if you use a plastic glue, you tend to lose some of the detail a little bit. So they do need a little bit touch up. You can't do it all, paint and then assemble, but it does help you kind of get a lot of the basics done. So this is my assembly box. Well, let's cover some basics. These are things that will save your life. As in, they will save your marriage and potentially your relationship or your with your parents or whatever. First of all, clothes. You know, this is basics. You're painting, you're cutting things, stuff's going to happen. Plasters, I'm well known for cutting myself while I'm assembling. I just have them ready to go now by the side. Also, put something on the floor, because again, you'll dribble stuff. One of the times I tried to have a go at it as being an artist at home, and I've actually got a kind of cool picture I want to bring in. I threw paint all over the floor and it didn't go down well, and was on the floor scrubbing with terps a lot. That wasn't a great time. I'll close that on the floor. Cover your table. We've got this is our gaming table, and we've just covered it with tarpaulin. These are fantastic. If you buy proper ones from the Games Workshop or whatever, they cost a bomb. Basically, this is a garden work tray, and it just helps to kind of like put all your stuff in. If you're going to spill paint, it's likely it'll just pull in here. And if I actually lift this up, you can see that indeed. Look at that, it's disgusting. Well, it's not really disgusting, it's just paint, guys, it's just paint. And, you know, that's where it's designed to. I've bought a food cutting table, which, again, when you need to cut things, it's quite useful. So there's two elements to really doing things with a hobby. Cutting and gluing, and painting. So, as I said, so these are, well, let's do things how I normally do things. So I usually start off with this, And what I tend to do is I get so the most fundamental colour here is green. So I've got my Warpstone green. Although these are actually Mantic figures, Dead Zone figures, and great. Mantic's a great company. Not so much Dead Zone, but Warpath I find is a really exciting game, which I hope we're going to do a little bit on in the future. It kind of reminds me. It's simple. It's very fast paced, but it's got enough detail to hold you and enough tactics to hold you. And it reminds me of Warhammer 40,000 when it first came out. So I tend to find that the Citadel dry brushes are brilliant for this, and you just kind of put it in and paint it all green, and just kind of get it all in the nooks and crannies. Beyond that, when I'm adding detail, I find there's a shop near here, it's in Lower Hutt. It's called Not Just Toys. He specialises in slot cars, and he's just been away to Germany just to look at a toy fair. But I find the Dash 1/8, and it's, if you can see here, it's got like a slanted top. Yeah, that's great, because what it allows you to do is it allows you to kind of get a very sharp edge as you paint along, and that's brilliant for kind of like getting clearly defined detail. So what I tend to do is I tend to paint these up, separate the primary colours, green, green from there, and this is bolt gun. Big fan of bolt gun as a colour. Like I said, we tend to use Citadel paints because I just find, from the viscosity and the handling, I've just kind of got used to using them, and I don't mind the smell too much either. There's some I quite like Tamiya products. Tamiya products are pretty good, but their paints really stink. Yeah, and I think really the combination of having a really thick brush, something like this for a bit more detail, and then occasionally you need to do something in tiny detail, and that's when you need one of these kind of pinhead brushes. And usually that's for doing things like dotting eyes, which I don't tend to be a big fan of, but I don't do eyes in huge detail. Most of my figures look a little bit like this guy. This is one of Cameron's actually, but yeah, I've just kind of painted his face. I think of that actually I've painted his face skin colour, and then I've used a dark wash to make him look like he's got craggy feet. It's like I like to call the Clint Eastwood look. Yeah. So that's what you need for painting, and obviously I've got quite a few more brushes there, and a few more paints. Generally, you find the thick brush will last you a long time. The less bristles you've got, the quicker it gets damaged. So I tend to get through a lot of these and a lot of these, and I love these brushes. In fact, I pretty much go in there and buy a job lot, and the guy from Not Just Toys says, do you want to buy an airbrush because it would be cheaper? But I've kind of got used to the very tactile feel of doing this, because just holding it close, getting that edge, putting that tiny amount on the brush, and just dragging it across. When that's ready, I'm kind of ready to start taking it apart. Now, when it comes to knives, I kind of use the same philosophy. A large thing for just cutting things out. So this is what I'd particularly use for and again, for these big things, cutting downwards, yeah, is the way to go. So a big Stanley knife. This one's a particular favourite because it's got a nice grip. That feels really good. And trying to do that downwards. And then something much more finer, so something a bit like this. You can see how well used this is, but I've changed the blade. That's quite sharp. And that you'll use just to kind of almost just kind of like whittle. You can just see almost take things off a layer at a time when needed. And I've done an amazing thing with these there's certain models I've got where I've kind of teased off one gun and put a different gun on there. all together. But yeah, that combination of you do need a big knife and a small knife, and it tends to be this one because I can't. So this one, for this, I know cut down. Don't cut towards yourself with that. But it's this one, as you can see, it's almost like peeling an orange, yeah, where you just, yeah. That tends to be when you when you cut yourself and go around swearing, and that's when these things. Remember, I said you need plasters. You will need plasters. And these I've just started to use. These are just kind of a way to, basically what you do is you get in there and it allows you to clip. They're like basically a pair of shears. It is better to cut them off the sprue. It's very tempting to go like that, but often it kind of, particularly with some very fine pieces. For instance, if I tried to do it with these hammers, what I'd find is the hammer would be coming off with the hand. So that's good. Let's just talk a bit about lighting as well. So in the war cave, we have 1, 2, 3, 100-watt plus lights. We've deliberately painted all the walls white to kind of make it a bit more lighter. And when we paint, we have one of these, which helps gives us a bit more detail. Where we really need things, we've got a daylight globe here, which I use quite a bit. It's not plugged in yet. I'm not quite ready to start yet. Okay, so if I turn this on, it just becomes a very blinding light all of a sudden. And these are designed for people in Norwegian countries who don't get much sun during the winter. I tend to find it quite useful to use as well, just to kind of like during winter. I definitely feel the benefit from being underneath it, but it's useful because if it's a miserable day, and as you know, the war cave, the war bunker has no windows. we need to pretend we've got sunlight. Yeah, so usually once I've assembled a model, Cameron doesn't go much for this, but I do. What I'll then do is I'll tend to put a wash on a model and then a little bit of dry brushing to finish it off. Obviously we're not ready to paint yet. I'm just preparing for tomorrow. Tomorrow we're planning to do a 12-hour challenge. I would like to finish off some of my Forge Fathers from Mantic. I say I would like to finish off. I've finished them off several times. This is part of being a wargamer, and a little bit like what Cameron is going to be revisiting his town. And I say revisiting because he's already of course he's already painted them, but he's decided he doesn't like the colour scheme and he wants to redo about 60 odd people. This would be madness to most people, but to wargamers, yeah, that makes sense. Welcome to Wargaming. Every time I think I've finished my army, I see something new or I think about something and I modify something and you're back to square one and you've got another 20 models to finish. I'm going to hopefully try and finish my Forge Fathers, and I would desperately like to try and get, currently we're playing an Orc campaign, and I'd like to get some more of my Orc boys, my basic infantry, painted, because I think they're pretty fantastic, and I would like to kind of get through as many as I can. The army is, I've played it, I've played the army as base coated, and the last few games that you should have seen on the channel, you've seen that I've been playing them painted, and it makes a difference. I have to admit, it makes a huge difference. There's a level of pride and a bit of fun. You sit here painting and getting through them, and yeah, actually having them done, it's a great feeling. It's an absolute great feeling. As you can see from all the piles I've done, you're never quite done. There's always something else to throw it on. It's likewise the scenery that you can see just back there. We've only just, again, we've had some of that for a couple of years, and we've only just really pushed ourselves forward and said, yeah, let's actually paint this. Let's get this done. And again, it's more fun to actually use, because it looks so much better, and you feel like, yeah, this is cool. It's one of the reasons why we actually did repainted the war game. Going, look, we can't have upped our game. We can't have suddenly be having much more better painted games, better scenery, and still be in quite a miserable room. And it does. It feels. That's one of the reasons why we decided to do the painting challenge down here, because this feels like this is our war. This is the war bunker. Yeah, this is where we get stuff done, and it's a great place to film. So anyway, hope you'll join us for the painting challenge tomorrow. Well, it'll probably be put up at a slightly different time, and I hope that kind of walkthrough has let you think about some of the things that you need to have lying around, basically, to get started in the hobby. Anyway, great speaking to you. Enjoy, and don't forget to subscribe.